construction tools will make them. I would like you just first to draw a circle on your marker board as best you can. We'll get some actual graph paper so you can use your compass to draw it on the homework. But on that marker board, draw me a circle. The center of the circle is 4, 2. 4, 2 is the center. And let's have it have a radius of 3. And you draw that circle. I know you're probably not real good at getting the curve, but can you figure out what points to use? Here's everybody's figuring out how to do that. So you're locating the center, 4, 2. And then I see most of you putting a mark, like you're going to the left 3 units, you're going to the right 3 units, you're going up 3 units, you're going down 3 units. And then you're trying to curve it as you're drawing that. So if we know 2 things about a circle, we can draw the circle. With a compass on your assignment, you'll be able to draw nice ones. But if you don't have a compass, do what you just did. Try and draw it as exact as possible. What's consistent about a circle is the distance, the radius. And so the equation of the circle that I'll show you is based upon the distance formula. Now you don't have to go through the distance formula every time to write the equation once we know where the information goes. So 2 important points, the center of the circle, and I guess the other's not really a point, but what's the radius? With those 2 facts, we'll be able to write the equation. Here's what the equation looks like, and this will be in your notes. I think the very last page. The equation of a circle, the center is going to use the variables h and k in this equation, and the radius is r. So this equation would be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So how would that be stated for the one that you just did? Well, the center is the h and the k, and the radius is the r. So it'd be x minus 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 3 squared, or we could write 9 in that place. That is what the equation of a circle looks like. Why is that the equation of a circle? Well, let's do some explanation here. The center I'm going to mark as HK. Well, maybe I should put 3 and 4. Okay, the center was 4, 2. And then I don't know what another point is on there. I'll just call it XY. Right in this range. XY. What's the distance between those 2 points called? Radius. So the radius is a consistent length, right? So to get that distance, to get the distance of r, wouldn't we do the distance formula with these 2 points? Distance formula, or that's one way we could. I know that that's in variable terms, but if I would take x minus 4 and square it, plus y minus 2 and square it, that would give me r squared. Oh, maybe I should do this. Square root of it. That's what I was talking about first, the distance formula. So I'm just finding the distance between my general point and the center point. Understand why I came up with that? Now to make it relate to what's up on the smart board, if I just square each side, which I just about did a second ago, I get r squared to equal, the squaring is simply going to cancel out the big square root. So it's going to say x minus 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals r squared. It really doesn't matter if I put the equals r squared on the left or the right. Do you recognize that as the equation that we came up with? I did have the number 9 in there. So the h and the k will be the coordinates of the center, and the r is always the radius. Keep those two facts in mind, and you'll be able to do the equation of the circle. And that should be the last formula on the wall, and it's over here. The bottom one is the equation of the circle. So you should recognize everything on the wall right now. So the explanation that I just did on the board is similar to what's on the smart board there. So let's try and write the equation of the circle. What's the equation of the circle that has center 2, 2 and radius of 4? Center is 2, 2, the radius is 4. You don't really solve it. I guess, I don't know what you were thinking. You can simplify like that 4 squared, you can simplify. All right, got it on a marker board, or did you put it on your notes? Some of you put it on a marker board. Show me those that really don't on a marker board. And let's try and simplify the 4 squared to a 16. That's really about the only, unless there's a minus negative, that could be simplified also. Okay, those that showed me were right, and those that didn't show me, did you get x minus 2 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 16? That's the equation of the circle. How about the equation of the circle that passes through 6, 4 and has a center of 1, negative 8? Question?
Okay, so the answer for the last one is that why would be like square root?
Okay, I was explaining to you why this would be the equation of the circle. Could they have made the equation of the circle with the distance formula? Or could this be the equation of the circle? Yeah, it could. But instead of that, they give it to us in this form, in the standard form, I guess, for the equation of a circle. All right, now what's different on the one up here? It's not quite as straightforward. You need to figure out what? The radius. You know the center, and you know a point it goes through. So if you know the center, and you know a point it goes through, if you calculate how far it is between those using the distance formula, you'll know what the radius is. So you have to actually plug in the 1, negative 8 and the 6, 4 to see what the radius is. The distance formula. So now that you've got the radius, write that. you can replace that 13 squared with. This should, like we put the y's first. The x's should be 6 minus 1. 4 minus 11 plus. Now I'm going to throw off the formula, but no, because if you put the 6 and the 4 in, you're going to get everything to cancel out. It really wouldn't be an equation anymore. You'll remember when you do the equation of a line, so a line has like y equals 4x plus 2. It has the variables x and y left in it because then you could come up with combinations in order to graph it. The same thing is true about a circle. It's going to have the x and the y because one way to graph it the long way is to pick x's and find what y's that go with it. But what you did earlier, knowing the center and the radius is easier. Checking out some markers or something. All right, so the equation on this one, I think everybody is finished. Most people, it looked like. The radius calculated to be 13. So then your equation with the center in and the radius. I would like you to simplify that y minus negative 8 to y plus 8. So you had x minus 1 squared plus y plus 8 squared equals 169. Question on that one? Okay. Write the equation of the circle with center 0, negative 3, and radius of 8. Left and exponent off though. The y part. You left the same exponent off. And the x minus 0 could simplify to just x. So I think that's what I did when I wrote mine. So I had simply x squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 64. Either way, I wouldn't take off for that. So rather than going to this form, you might just stick with this one. It has the square root off of it. Okay, how about passes through that and has that center. That's exactly like the one we did earlier. Let's go to the next one. I was thinking one you had to find the diameter. All right, here's the next example we'll do. Write the equation of the circle. It has those 2 points as the ends of the diameter. So neither one of those is the center. You need to find the center and how long the radius is. Those are ends of a diameter. Do it, Kevin? Yes. do distance formula?
Yeah.
6, 3, and 10, 3. No, 4. What's 10 minus 6?
Oh.
Squared. It's 4 squared. Because 4 is your radius, right? Oh, that's 2 is your radius.
Yeah, but that'd be your square root.
Okay, the radius shouldn't come out 2. Okay, right here, 10 minus 6 is 4 squared. Okay, your center should have come out to be 6, 3. And what I did was the distance formula, I figured out how long the diameter was from these 2 points. And then if the diameter is 8, the radius would be just half of that. So the radius was 4 when you write the equation. Do the midpoint, that gave you the center of the circle. I think some students did found the center first, and then used the center and one of these points to just find what the radius is. That's perfectly fine. Another way to do it. So your center was 6, 3. Your radius was 4. You have to square it in the formula. So in the end, you should all have x minus 6 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 16. Thumbs up or down? Any certain parts you got stuck on? Find the things. Okay. Let's try an equation of 2 concentric circles. What's that mean? Same center. Okay? And I'm telling you what the center of circle A is. -4, 3. I want it to have a radius of 5. And the second circle, I'll call it B, I want to have a radius of 2. So write their equations, and then I also want you to graph what that would look like. I suppose technically I should have called them both circle A, but I need to make a difference between them. So write the equations, and then let's graph them. Once you have the equations, then do your graphing. If you want to double check your equations before you start. So you have the center. And the radius is 5. Like you did on that one. Yeah, 5 to the left, right, up, down. And the second one, just go radius of 2. Well, let's see. Did you guys have the red centers? Maybe red. Was your center -4, +3? I think you did positive. Okay, we'll catch that. So when you were graphing that, and I don't have the solution up here, but it should be x plus 4 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 25 was the first circle. Then x plus 4 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 16 for the second one. No, not 16, 4. The radius was 2. Okay, so when you graph them, they both have the same center, and that was -4, 3. One had a radius of just 2, so it was kind of small. The other had a radius of 5, so it was bigger. Roughly what they looked like. Follow-up questions on those? Okay, so now we're going to do more of the graphing backwards. So you'll need to figure out what the center is and then what the radius is. If I just have x squared plus y squared equals 16, to figure out the center, you might need to, in your mind, expand it. This would be x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals, if you want to think 4 squared, you can see what your radius is. So graphing that, what's its center? 0, 0, with the origin. What's its radius? 4. The square root of 16. That's a circle that's called in standard position because it's at the origin. That's kind of like the parent graph of a circle. Any trouble graphing it? 0, 0, and we went 4 each way. If you wanted to find some other points, like you could put a 3 into the equation and see what you get for y. Very seldom is it going to be an integer. You could put a 2 in and see what you get for the y. You'll actually get 2 values for the y because you're doing the square root when you're trying to solve that equation. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, for the next one, it's not a center of 0, 0. So what would be the center? Watch your positives and negatives. What is the H? What is the K? The 9 is already squared. It looks like there's no exponent on it. Yeah, go ahead and graph it then if I tell you that you're right on those. Figure out what your center is. That's not 3, 4. You gotta think of this one as y minus -4. Sign the division. That's the equation that's up there. Okay, so your center should be 3, -4, and the radius was 3. Okay, got a picture there. So do you understand why it's 3, -4? You got to think of that y part because the equation says y minus k. You got to think of it as y minus -4. So really, your center contains the opposite signs of the numbers you see in the parentheses. I think we mastered that one pretty good with the 0, 0 center. Okay, try this one. X minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 4. Graph. this section, you're either writing the equation or using the equation to graph. And is this circle tangent to the x-axis or the y-axis? Was it the x-axis? Yes. We can tie in some things that we did earlier. Any question getting that graph? -2 is the center. Okay, let me click to make sure we didn't skip something we needed to. This one would have, oh, what's the center of this one? 1, 2. What's its radius? Square root of 20, which is going to be a little harder to graph. What's it approximately in a decimal? 4.5. So you're going to graph it with about a 4.5. Oops. And when you would graph it, I would suggest you just go, your center is 1, 0, or 1, 2. Then just put on there, labeled that the radius is the square root of 20. When you're doing it, you're using about a 4.5 in order to graph it. So label what the exact radius is. All right, and the next question looks like something we had done earlier. You might want to do this on that graph side. It says we have an amateur radio operator. We want to build a radio antenna near his home without using the house as a bracing point. He uses 3 poles to brace the antenna. The poles are to be inserted into the ground at 3 points, equidistant from the antenna. So those are your 3 points. What are the coordinates of the base of the antenna? Graph those 3 points. I suppose this might even be better on graph paper, but we'll see what we can do. Those 3 points are equidistant from somewhere. So it's like those 3 points are corners on a circle. Or points on a circle, I shouldn't say corners on a circle. But we don't know if any of them are ends of a diameter. So what we might do is go back to something we did previously. Connect those 3 points as best you can straight. If you imagine a circle, so I'm going to draw a picture of kind of what we're leading up to. Do you remember seeing that earlier? Circle going around it? That was a circumscribed circle. The center was a circumcenter. What was the circumcenter made out of? Started with a consonant. If I was trying to find the center of a circle, like you did earlier in class, what would I do to that chord? Bisect it, perpendicular bisect it. Okay. Somewhere on there's the center of the circle. We have 3 chords. You don't have the circle in your picture yet, but treat each side like it's a chord. Maybe you can count and estimate. This would be better on graph paper as I'm talking about it. So you would find the perpendicular bisector of that side, perpendicular bisector of this side. If you do those right, you're probably done right there. Use that as the center to draw the circle. And that center is what we're trying to come up with for the answer to the problem. But let's actually grab some graph paper to do that one, I think. There's one like that on your homework. You're going to need some graph paper for your homework anyway. And then after that, we'll work on homework. Graph those 3 points on this graph paper. Grab your compass and straight edge again. Okay, so make an XY axis. Locate those 3 points. 3, 2, in those regions? Okay, so connect two of them and construct the perpendicular bisector. Construct two more of them and do its perpendicular bisector. Perpendicular bisector on two of those segments. Where they cross should be the center of the circle going through all three of them. That center point would be where you want the base of the antenna to be, because it's the same distance to each point. So to answer the question, what are the coordinates of that point? Remember what it was. Get rid of my sketches. Looks like it comes out to be 3, -2. Tying back into what we did earlier in our chapters. I do believe you will need a compass in order to do your assignment well. Okay. I guess first come, first served, you can probably grab those. If you have a compass, leave mine here. But if you need to, and I think there's a couple constructions on your cumulative test, so maybe you need those anyway. So you will need to do some constructing. So whether you take these or if you have some, that's fine. The assignment that you're supposed to be doing is on page 802. 802. That is the last section of new material. Woo-hoo! No.
Too bad, you're gonna miss it.
So that page, and remember to finish your cumulative test. I hope nobody procrastinated till tonight. They are due tomorrow. Some people were going to be gone tomorrow, so I think you're supposed to be turning that in today. Or else in the morning.